Dear all, this is a lecture on activity systems. My name is Marko Kohtamäki, and I work as a professor in strategic business development master program, and will teach you in this short lecture, tell you about activity systems, how critical tool that is when designing a management system, and how strategy map is utilized as a tool in this context, in this purpose. First of all, when you need to consider the context that we are in an organization, in a firm, in this case, in multi-divisional firm. We have the board, executives, CEO, executive committee, divisions, and then the different operations, the different production lines in divisions, different business units, etc. So we have a multi-layered organization with board, executives, divisions, and then product units or business units. In addition, in between, there may be some business area level, which then follows the country structure. So business areas may be single countries or multiple countries, and within countries, there exist business units and operations, but not necessarily. Business areas have other meanings as well. Sometimes they can combine different business units, and divisions can consist multiple business areas. So it's not totally coherent how it's utilized, of course, between different companies. But this is a divisional organization with a board and executive committee, different product or service divisions, and then within divisions, multiple business units or business lines. So this is where the management system is created and utilized. So there needs to be a way to set targets, measure, follow up, create strategies, and implement strategies in different levels. So of course the board level participates to the broader strategic considerations. Executive committee finalizes strategy and implementation plans in the corporate level. Then in the divisional levels, in the different divisions, there may be, and it's likely that there are different strategies. Those strategies should be aligned with the corporate level strategy, and of course with the board level discussions, strategizing. And then within divisions, business units have their own strategies, which then are divided still into different functional plans or strategies, let's say supply chain strategy or HR strategy or marketing strategies. Strategy map creates an interesting tool and particularly valuable tool for this type of task. Strategy map can be utilized in the corporate level, corporate creating a strategy map, targets, measures, by using the different dimensions of Pala scorecard, the strategy map, the strategic logic of a firm, so to say. Then divisions create their own strategy maps, and then business units below divisions create their own strategy maps. And this is an important task. management system has a key role in terms of creating the organizational agility, capacity of the organization to respond, to detect, sense, and respond, seize opportunities and threats fast and easily. So organizational agility, the speed of the organization to adapt, organizational agility, agile organization anticipates this type of capability, capacity. Also comes very close to dynamic capability, of which we talked about in the previous lecture. It's a different concept, perhaps utilized in different literatures, perhaps has a little bit more specific meaning regarding this agility, fast reaction, but very close to dynamic capability. I think could be and often is utilized in parallel to the concept of dynamic capability as well. And then organizational resilience, which references to organization's capacity to recover from instances, shocks that happen in the business environment. So kind of capacity or viability over the variety of shocks that can come from the business environment. Keeping these in mind, that organization needs this type of, or the general belief in the strategy literature is that this organizational agility is an important concept and capacity, and then resilience, that organizations vary regarding this type of capability to meet the shocks, to be resilient regarding the shocks that come from the environment. Kind of capacity to react as well, maintain operations, stay viable. Keeping those in mind, agility and resilience, we need to remember in terms of the management systems that strategy, structure, and systems should be aligned. And we are always organizations are in search of optimal configuration in terms of strategies in different levels. You remember the organizational chart a couple of slides ago. And then structures within the corporate level, divisional level, business unit levels, and then systems within the corporate, divisional, and business unit level. Organizations search for optimal configuration to meet the challenges and opportunities and threats using the SWOT concepts when they are reacting to those shocks. So strategy, structure, and systems. And in many ways, there is no simple way of describing variety of configurations. But you could, for instance, consider that environment changes significantly. Consumers present new technological demands in terms of cars, for instance. In terms of strategy, or the organization is relying on differentiation. Let's say it's a German brand relying on differentiation, has to react in with their highly technological products to these increasing demands of autonomous cars and electricity in powertrain. They need a structure and systems to react to these technological demands. So product development perhaps needs adjustment, urgent need to develop electrical engine technologies, autonomous technologies, mapping systems, navigation systems that enable autonomous cars, new sensors, new different sensors that enable autonomous vehicles, also including systems, both product systems, as mentioned, but then also organizational systems, IT systems. Strategy, structure, and systems have to be configured to be able to operate in an agile way. So agility emerges because of alignment between strategy, structure, and systems. And these enable the organization to react whatever takes place in the environment. They should be. They enable organization operate effectively. And in this task, of course, the performance target systems are at the center. Performance targets, of course, focuses on outputs, key performance indicators. We set targets, we set indicators to measure, to manage outputs, to manage behaviors through measuring outputs, so that we don't need to pay that much attention to single behaviors, rather that we measure outputs by using so-called key performance indicators, KPIs. The performance is judged by ability to meet the set targets. And then we leave freedom for the organization to decide how they operate, how they want to reach the targets. Top management sets the targets. This is quite common, and to some extent it's embedded into performance target setting, but both are needed. I think both are needed. Still, it doesn't remove the need to also manage behaviors. Target setting is needed in all types of companies, not only in large companies, but it's emphasized in large businesses where the individual behaviors and the micro level becomes increasingly difficult to manage. In regulated markets where you have government owned or government influenced markets, let's say cabs, for instance, in Finland, or railways or airways, where you don't have perfect market, government has to set certain KPIs, for instance, or utilities, electricity networks. Utilities, government has to set certain KPIs and govern the markets. And same holds to public services, that when you don't have the market, you don't have the competition, you have to govern the whole large system through KPIs. So the KPIs have increasingly central role. Performance setting performance targets is far from easy. It's easy to end up using inappropriate measures, wrong measures. They steer behavior wrongly. We don't get what we wished for. We get something else, but we get what we measure. Inappropriate target levels, too high targets or too low targets. It's extremely important when you set targets that those should be reasonable, difficult to achieve, but achievable, so that they motivate. And of course, what needs to be remembered is that target setting and measurement increases competition and even sub-optimization between units and teams. So that has to be remembered when setting targets. So inappropriate measures, target levels, and of course increasing in internal control, competition. Strategy strategy map is, or activity system is a reflection of firm strategy. A strategy map should reflect the activity system and strategy of the firm. So, point is, one of the main issues is that how the firm intends to achieve its financial targets by creating the customer value from resources and competencies through processes and activities. So strategy map embeds the strategic logic of a firm. So what is the strategic logic of a firm? Description of strategic logic should be realistic but challenging and include the uniqueness, competitive advantage. So this has to be aligned with the actual strategy, real strategy of the firm, and competitive advantage, uniqueness, value, customer value creation. And of course, strategy map utilizes the logic of balanced scorecard. 4 dimensions: finance, financial measures, financial targets, customer value, internal processes, renewal and growth, which I tend to use as resources and competencies, but aligned. This is the most simplest kind of form of description. So here you see the financial targets, customer value, internal processes, and then learning and growth, or competence and resources. Again, learning and growth feed internal processes which generate customer value, which enable firm to build new firms, franchises, increase customer value, improve cost structures, lower the costs, or improve use of assets. So productivity and revenue growth and improved shareholder value. So how the firm intends to achieve targets, main targets, I would say 3 to 5 main targets and measures. How the firm intends to achieve financial targets by creating customer values related to operational excellence, customer closeness, intimacy, or product leadership, by utilizing these types of processes and activities to generate the customer values from resources and competencies. So, strategic logic of a firm. Targets are achieved by creating customer value. Customer value is created by creating customer value from resources and competencies, utilizing processes and activities. This is aligned with what we discussed regarding resources and capabilities in prior lecture. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated picture from our own study with solution provider companies, but basically the similar logic holds. So we have the financial targets, financial measures, financial perspective, customer value creation, how customer value is created in solution providers, and then the operational processes related to operations, processes related to customer management, customer relationships, and then processes related to innovation. And then resources and competencies related to human resource management, cultural management, internal relationships, knowledge management, etc. So again, how these processes and micro-level activities are utilized to create customer value from these resources and competencies and how these generation of these types of customer values in the end feed to achieve financial targets. And again, the same in public organization, university organization. How these types of external funding targets, academic journal article targets, and graduation targets are achieved by creating value for students, academic community, companies, and funding agencies. These types of customer values are achieved through these types of processes and activities when creating value from resources and competencies which are related to teaching, research, and consulting. So from these types of consulting resources and competencies through these types of processes and activities, these types of customer values for companies and funding agencies are generated to achieve external funding target per professor. Similarly, these resources and competencies are utilized by these processes and activities to generate these types of customer values for academic community to achieve these journal targets and these per professor. And these teaching-related resources and competencies are utilized by these teaching processes and activities to create these types of values for students to achieve these types of targets in terms of graduation and per professor. And all in all, of course, added value to the university and business school. So this is the strategic logic. So you see that the strategy map explicates the strategic logic. And then this could be generated in the university level, in different faculties, meaning divisions, and then in different departments and teams. So you can break down the strategy map and use the same tool in each level. And then finally, of course, you come to implementation plans. And of course, one of the first important issues is that you set targets, you set measures, and then you start the discussions about what type of strategic initiatives and investments has to be made in order to develop operations. So we decide on the core measures, key measures. We set targets based on those measures. And then we start the discussions that where we need to invest or what type of strategic initiatives we need to implement in order to achieve the set targets and to develop our operations. So this is it about the activity systems, strategic activity systems and management systems. I like to talk about management systems because I think it well reflects the importance of commonly understanding the strategic logic of an organization, measurement, target setting, and then setting the investments and strategic initiatives, and follow-up practice. What is important always is not only to measure and set targets, but to follow up. This is all unnecessary without proper, appropriate follow-up practice. So follow-up is one of the most important management practices that has to be remembered. Thank you.